Hi everybody, Pasquale Scuderi, Superintendent, Alameda Unified. Been a while since we've connected like this, so thought here at the midpoint of the year we should. Winter break is upon us. Just to start with some calendar stuff, as you know, the last day of school is Wednesday, December 21st. We will be back at it in 2023, classes resuming on Monday, January 9th. For those of you that like to plan ahead, our schools will also be closed on January 17th for the observance of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Our schools will be closed the week of February 20th in observance of President's Week. And if you're really planning ahead, spring break this year falls the week of April 10th. I do want to mention that per one of the key goals of our strategic plan, in January, we're going to really start a broad and in-depth community conversation on potential revisions or changes to our grading policies and administrative regulations and practices here in Alameda Unified. It's a big decision, it's a complicated subject, and it is not an issue that me or anyone else in the community should make decisions about unilaterally. We want to make sure that that conversation is globally informed by the perspectives of students, of parents, of teachers, administrators, all educators within our community, to eventually potentially make some recommendations for revisions or changes to policies and regulations to the Board of Education. Again, a challenging subject and a lot of different perspectives out there, but I think it's a conversation we absolutely have to start. Toward that end, we're happy to announce that we have tentatively scheduled a community-wide presentation from one of the leading voices in the field of grading reform. Joe Feldman is the author of a book entitled Grading for Equity, and Joe will be making a community-wide presentation, again, tentatively scheduled for January 25th. We'll confirm that date and time and give additional updates and reminders on the other side of winter break. I would be remiss as we head into the break not to address the fact that we as a community have yet again had to witness or experience hate-themed speech in the form of graffiti, most recently at Alameda High School, multiple incidents there. And I just want to again underscore how much we condemn that type of behavior and how much we want to take a hard line on the consequences that will be applied for people found to be partaking or participating in that kind of behavior. As an educator, I don't relish the opportunity to have to really take a hard line on punishment, but this is one area where we absolutely will hold a hard line. When we find people responsible for these acts or engaging in these acts, consequences can include suspension, they can include expulsion, they can include referrals to law enforcement, and they are consequences that can become a part of a student's permanent record. Regardless of the intent of people engaging in this behavior, my view is that you are acting in direct opposition to our community's values, and you are engaging in a form of psychological terror that infringes upon the right of each and every one of our students to learn in a safe or supportive environment. So whether that speech or that graffiti is anti-Semitic in theme, anti-Black in theme, homophobic or transphobic, we are going to hold a hard line and let people know that this is not acceptable behavior or expression in our community. We also want to reiterate our request that each and every family sit down and have conversations about this topic, age-appropriate conversations about this topic with their students. I also want to appreciate and thank some of our high school students have reached out to me directly with their concerns, who have offered potential solutions that include student leadership. I want to appreciate those who have come forward and given us information that in some cases have helped us identify people responsible for this type of activity. Students, you are absolutely partners in this, and so if you see or hear of people engaging in this behavior, please confide in a trusted adult on campus. That information is very valuable to our efforts in keeping the campus safe and holding a high standard for inclusive student culture on all of our campuses. As an educator, I know that there is, I've just expressed what I think is a hard line on the discipline end, but as an educator, I also know that discipline and punishment alone are not the only angles we need to be working in. Our curriculum and the learning experiences, our ability to educate away from or against bias and hate is also vital. I want to let the community know that we are currently in the process of adopting a new K-5 social studies curriculum, and in the summer of 23 we'll be initiating the initial curriculum review and piloting of new curriculum for middle and high school. I also want to let folks know that with these adoptions, our team is being very conscious in using a rubric that helps guide our decisions on new curriculum, a rubric that insists on the inclusion of multiple cultural perspectives, a rubric that insists on the inclusion of contributions from historically marginalized groups, people of color, LGBTQ plus folks, folks with disabilities. We want you to know that that rubric also insists that new social studies curriculum takes an anti-racist, an explicit anti-racist and anti-biased approach that not only challenges historical inaccuracies, but also bangs back clearly against stereotypical representations or stereotypes in general. Curriculum adoptions are things that sometimes happen over a longer haul, and I know that there is a need to get resources out into our school community immediately to help address and support our ongoing responsibility to push back against this type of behavior and this type of sentiment. As a result, we will, in a very short period of time, be sharing with all of our teachers and with our community members resources from a project called US or Us versus Hate. These are resources that include readily available lesson plans, opportunities for students to engage in projects to develop anti-bias and anti-hate messaging. The Us versus Hate project is a national project started by UC San Diego's CREATE, which is their educational equity consortium. It's informed by the work of Professor Micah Pollack. Their School Talking project, hashtag School Talking, is another place where parents and teachers can access supportive resources on how to facilitate conversations in anti-bias and anti-hate in the classroom and at home. And these projects are also supported by teacher networks that are associated with the National Writing Project. So good stuff there that we hope to get out to the community very soon. School safety has also been a big topic, and I know that is always a preeminent concern of educators and parents alike. In the wake of the incidents that we dealt with at Alameda High School last week, and what ultimately turned out to be a false alarm, but still a very concerning false alarm at Encinal, we want you to know that we are exploring ways in which we might limit access to our schools, tighten the perimeter around those schools at some of our more open campuses. Certainly, we don't want to turn our schools into things that look like military installations or prisons, but being a little smarter about perimeter access, I think, is in order given what we've been through. I want folks to know that we are continuing to clarify best practices for securing individual classrooms on very short notice. Our maintenance and operations teams are working through the entire district, and we are on pace to outfit every classroom in the district with new hardware, California safety locks. And for those schools that are still on the list to have that new hardware installed, there is a clear protocol which principals can share for keeping doors in the locked position and then propped open if the door is going to remain open during classroom time, so that those doors can be secured very easily and on very short notice. We're going to continue our recruitment efforts for campus supervisors and noon supervisors, like a lot of classified positions. These have been difficult positions to recruit for over the last couple of years. We have just filled a vacancy, but still have some openings. If you or anybody you know is interested in part-time or full-time work in one of these campus supervisory roles, please contact our HR department directly. Their contact information is on our website. We're working with principals to consider ways that we might more strategically use parent volunteers for campus supervision, not to bring parents in to act as security personnel, but just to bring them in to thoughtfully do things like increase visibility and perhaps monitor some of the most vulnerable access points on our campus. So that's another area we are exploring. Continuing to practice our safety protocols and safety drills. This is not just in response to what we've gone through in the last couple of weeks. If you recall, in the late summer, we made it very clear that we were going to be doing collaborative safety drills and planning at each and every one of our school sites this fall, and we have done that. In many cases, law enforcement was there to observe that process and give feedback. In another instance, the firefighters were there to observe those protocols, just so that on a community level, we have a multi-agency fluency in how we'll respond and work together in the event of any school-wide or citywide emergencies. We also need to revisit, in light of what we've been through, some basic things that sometimes are things that we can become complacent about. Something as simple as making sure all staff is readily identifiable when they are on campus, and that all visitors are wearing a visitor's badge. I had a conversation with one of our board members, Megan Sweet, the other day, and she reminded me of the importance of empowering our staff to let the community know that when we see someone that it does not have their work ID or their visitor's passes, they need to be directed to our main offices. So again, that is a protocol that a simple one that should be in place every day, but something we want to make sure that we are reiterating on as we move forward. We'll also continue to refine our partnership with law enforcement. I want to personally thank Chief Joshi and Alameda PD for being incredibly responsive last week, and for an ongoing partnership where we are constantly thinking together about how to progressively support campus safety at each and every one of our campuses. I also want to mention, as we head into winter break, that one of our emergent priorities is working harder and in a more focused way on the achievement of our African American students. For too many of our African American students, we still see disproportionately we see outcomes that are not where we want them to be in areas like attendance, outcomes on standardized test scores, and on grades. So we will have far more sharpened and specific proposals in the new year, but we discussed with our board on December 13th the need to make investments in what we think are 5 key areas: mentoring, advising, and progress monitoring, additional skilled social supports that could take the form of licensed clinical social work to support families and students who are really going through stuff. We want to increase the availability of tutoring and academic supports to all of our students, but in particular to students who are furthest from the proficiency levels we want them to be at, additional culturally responsive trainings for staff, and a potential increase in family engagement staffing so that we really can build on and solidify relationships with many of our African American families, because we know that those partnerships are going to be vital and indispensable to moving the needle for improvement in terms of not only outcomes, but the experiences that our African American students are having in our schools. That's a lot of information in very short order. I am hoping that all of you get whatever it is you need over the break: some downtime, some uptime, a good book, a trip, some time to relax and refresh. We've got a lot of challenges ahead of us. There are a lot of complicated issues that we have to work through, but I remain convinced that if we can remain united and moving in the same direction on some of these key issues, that we will continue to improve multiple important aspects of our school and school culture. So thanks, and have a great holiday.